You are listening to the Delay and Pray podcast, episode number 86.
Welcome to the Delay and Pray podcast, where certified Catholic and weight loss coach Beth Bubick teaches you how to permanently lose weight through spiritual fasting. Get ready to gain faith and lose weight through a joyful transformation of both body and soul. Now, your host, Beth, the Catholic Fasting Coach.
Buckle up for today's podcast, everyone. I have a guest today who will fill your heart with her journey. Summer is in full swing and everything is in bloom. God's glory is shining everywhere. When I started this coaching business 3 years ago, I knew the Lord and his beautiful mother would send me just the right clients at the exact time. Well, Beverly is one of those clients. I can't wait for you to meet her. She is currently 81 years young. I would say old, but she is not old. She is so young, full of wisdom, and inspires me every week. My goal for this program is to get as many women spiritually fasting as I can for their families, for their own fitness of body and soul, and for freedom for this world. I knew when I started this movement that I just needed to believe in God's promise, his providence, and his protection, and that he would come through. And I just decided to trust him. It's not easy to trust him, especially when embarking on something new a bit later in life, but I've had to lean into trust my whole life, so I'm rather accustomed to it, and I have a feeling Beverly is too. The Lord gives us exactly what we need, just enough to fuel our dreams and keep trusting him for more, no matter what our age. He always provides. I've always learned that age is not limiting. It's filled with wisdom and a unique work of its own. It's freeing, actually. Beverly has taught me much about this. She is my guest today on the podcast, and we are going to talk about just these things. As I said before, Beverly is 81, and she's a star client that was gifted to me by God. She enrolled in the program in December of 2022 for the Delay and Pray group coaching experience that started in January of 2023. So she has been with me over a year. She's a part of a core group of clients that I call friends, who are the founding members of the Delay and Pray spiritual fasting movement. I am honored and humbled by these amazing women who have been transformed in body and soul right before my eyes. And I am so happy to have Beverly here on the podcast. She's going to discuss her physical and spiritual journey with us, along with her upcoming trip to hike a 60-mile stretch of the El Camino in Spain this fall with her 2 sons, a dream that is finally coming true. Beverly is a cradle Catholic and a revert. She is the second of 6 children growing up in East Tennessee. She left the Catholic Church at the age of 19, encountered Christ at age 33, where she spent 12 years in the Methodist Wesleyan Church. After a reversion at the age of 50, she came back home to the Catholic Church in 1993. She is a retired OBGYN physician and opened up the first abortion clinic in Mississippi in 1975. The Lord touched her heart and she resigned in 1978, becoming active in pro-life Mississippi in 1980. She is still active today in the pro-life movement. Mississippi's 15-week abortion ban overturned Roe v. Wade at the Supreme Court, if you remember. She was part of that. How amazing is that? She has 3 sons by her first marriage and gained a lovely stepdaughter when she remarried at age 40. She's a widow, losing her husband 8 years ago. She has 9 grandchildren. She is currently working with the Sisters in Birth organization, hoping to open the first freestanding birthing center in Mississippi, because Mississippi ranks dead last in the country in maternal and newborn mortality and morbidity, where maternal obesity often drives these dreadful statistics. Nutritional education and counseling is a key pillar of our medical model, she says. I think this is going to be one of the most beautiful talks of the year. Welcome, Beverly. Wow, what a conversion story you have to tell.
Oh my goodness, yes. Amazing grace.
Amazing grace. Well, I have enjoyed our coaching so much. I must say that one of the best things about you is your sweet, quiet smile and laughter that I see every week. And when I'm coaching you or the other women, you show up every single week. You put your camera on, you're ready to go, engaged in conversation. And I just want to personally thank you for that. It's a very sweet thing. And I'm also very proud of your progress and the hard work that you've put into completing this course. I know that you are spiritually and physically motivated with your whys, and I know that helps as well. You really are the best, and I'm so grateful that you said yes to guesting on this podcast today. So let's begin with your story. your conversion back to the faith and pro-life work, which that's a big part of my history as well, is the pro-life work.
Actually, I don't know all of that history, so I'm be excited to hear about it. Well, growing up in East Tennessee, I actually knew I wanted to be a doctor probably since I was about 12 years old or so. And the Lord opened doors when I was 19 and in pre-med school at the University of Tennessee. I suddenly realized I was smarter than God and decided to live like the world. So I didn't step inside a church for 14 years, went through my entire medical training thinking we'd evolved up out of the mud a la Darwin. Didn't really run into abortion at all. I graduated in 1966 from medical school, went to Mayo Clinic for my residency in OB-GYN, and had to spend 6 months at Cook County Hospital in Chicago as part of my, and it was there that I ran into the aftermath of back alley abortions. I had to spend 6 weeks on this ward that took care of women coming in with incomplete infected abortions. And being a secular humanist at the time, it seemed obvious to me that the thing to do was to get medicine to start taking some social responsibility in taking care of these women. So when Roe v. Wade came down in 1973, I was in Kentucky at that time. My partner and I went and bought a suction machine, and we started offering first trimester abortions to our patients. And then in 1975, a terrible thing happened to me. My first husband moved us off to Mississippi. Which was not a happy thought to me at all at that time. One of the bright spots was that I met a group of concerned citizens and clergy who were ready to open up an abortion clinic. They needed a physician to be willing to help them do that. And I signed up. This was a moonlighting job. I had my regular practice that I was just starting, but I would spend an evening a week at the abortion clinic. In 1976, a year later, for some reason, my whole life seemed to be unraveling. My marriage was coming apart. Everything else in my life seemed fine, but it was in that situation that I read a book, The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale. And the first chapter said that one of 10 things one needed to do to get your act together was to say a verse of the Bible. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Philippians 4:13.
Oh, well, that took me about a week of agony to finally realize nothing else was working. Maybe I would just say the darn thing. And that was, I'm afraid, my attitude. But when I did, I had just a marvelous encounter with Christ. He was in the back seat of my car. This happened as I was pulling into the parking lot at the hospital. And it was just amazing. And from that point on, I started reading the Bible. I got connected with this Methodist Wesleyan group, learned scripture back and forth because that was kind of all we had, and lived through the divorce, and 3 or 4 years later met and married Roy McMillan. And he turned out to be a pro-life warrior.
Really? Oh, God has a sense of humor, doesn't he? And
Yeah.
how old were your boys when you married Roy? You had 3 sons then.
They were 12, 10, and 8.
Oh my
12,
gosh.
10, and 8. And he had a 12-year-old daughter. So we had a blended family.
So he was a pro-life advocate. Okay.
Well, I was already involved in pro-life for about 3 or 4 years.
So how did you switch? So when did you realize that you were going in an evening a week in 1976? When did you realize this isn't it? This is not helping?
It was about 78, I guess. I'm a slow learner.
We all are.
Well, okay. So I was reading the Bible, starting to go to church, and 2 things happened. One, I was ready to join the Protestant church, and I realized I probably shouldn't do this, carrying this abortion stuff on my back. Nobody was preaching about it or saying anything. No, hardly anybody knew I was doing it. But I was just convicted that I should resign. But prior to that, I had stopped doing abortions myself for about 6 months. One of the last abortions I did, one of the ladies that worked in the abortion clinic asked me why I always came out of the room after I did the procedure and was doing something at the sink before I would go back in. And I said, well, I have to take the little cloth trap out of the suction bottle, come out here and pick through the pieces to be sure that I have everything,
All the baby parts.
all the parts. Because if I leave something inside the woman, 48 hours later, she's going to be showing up with an infected, incomplete abortion, just like those poor women at Cook County Hospital did. So she said, would you show me what you do sometime? And I said, sure. So this particular day, I had done a procedure, an abortion on a baby that was 12 weeks along. And I called her over. And it was a little boy. It was easy. It's easy to see at that point in pregnancy. And there was this little arm sitting off by itself with this perfectly formed little bicep muscle. And it was just this cha-ching moment. My youngest son was always trying to keep up with his older brothers. and he would come in and say, look at my muscle, look at my muscle. And this wave of sadness came over me. And I thought, what am I doing? 5 minutes ago, this was all together in one beautiful little body, and now it's in pieces. I don't know what I did before that. I guess I just counted parts. It's like St. Paul said, the God of this world has blinded their eyes so that they can't see. Well, he allowed me to see, and I just couldn't do abortions after that. But I was the clinic director, and by then I had trained several other physicians to help do the procedures. So I just made the schedule out so that I didn't have to do procedures. But I was still, I guess, emotionally connected with the people I had worked with at the abortion clinic. But deciding to join this church was when I decided to resign. And then for 2 years, I just tried to forget about the whole thing and ruin my faith. And then I got asked to come to a organizational meeting of Pro-Life Mississippi, what was to become Pro-Life Mississippi, in 1980. And when the organizer realized he had an ex-abortionist on his hands, he said, I ought to get you out talking about this. And I said, well, you're going to have to educate me because all I know is the dark side. So he gave me a bunch of books to read. Bernard Nathanson's Aborting America was really helpful. Really.
I've read it.
It was another physician who had come to the same conclusion, and it was affirming.
He actually invented the suction machine, didn't he? Nathan Bernardson?
I don't know that he invented it, but he was very instrumental in getting that Roe case to the Supreme Court.
Yes.
And the largest abortion clinic in the world, when New York and California, I think, were the only states allowing abortion at that time. And he eventually converted to the Catholic faith. We were able to entertain him at our house.
Really? I mean, he became Catholic. He was a staunch pro-life supporter in the end. And also, I want people to know, too, that the book is so good. Everybody should read it. Just the sordid life that he really came from was unfortunate. That's why we need to be praying for all
people who are involved in the abortion industry. Yeah.
So it's funny, Beverly, because I've always been pro-life, coming from a large Catholic family and being the last of 8. And interesting, I was the pro-life coordinator for a high school. So I would bring all the high schoolers to pray a rosary outside of the abortion clinic. And at the time, my youngest was in 3rd grade. So she's grown up praying outside of abortion clinics to the point where, like, in 5th grade, we would be somewhere and she would say, Mom, are we going to the abortion clinic? And I would say, oh, honey, you have to rephrase that. Are we going to pray? So, yeah, but she saw all the action. The doctor sometimes would come out and yell at us. I remember one of the nurses would come out. She would call us masturbators just to do it. And there were nuns. There were nuns. There were, I mean, a lot of people praying because it was right outside the University of Notre Dame. So anyway, interesting though, Beverly, my mother and father were very sweet people. And so I would go to mass and I would take the soul of that doctor with me every time that I would take the Eucharist, and I would say, Lord, just help him. Just help him and all the other doctors who perform abortions every single time that I would take the Eucharist. And he was the one in Chicago, Dr. Kloffner, who had all those baby parts in his trunk and in his garage.
Yes.
And he ended up with a sidewalk counselor coming to him and going to Father Dan Scheidt in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And we're pretty sure he converted before he died.
Praise God.
Praise God.
Amen. Amen. I know some people were praying for me. I'm absolutely positive.
I mean, it's so beautiful because, you work in this kind of sordid type of field and you know how you feel, but you really don't know how that doctor feels. And so then the story of Father Dan Scheidt from St. Vincent's Parish in Fort Wayne, he's still there in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Then he recalled the whole conversation in the backseat of a car talking to him. And it was the car of the sidewalk counselor and he wanted to talk to a priest. And so we don't know, what happened with him, but it was all over the news and it's beautiful. So we should always carry these people in our heart.
Yes. And be hopeful. Yeah.
Hopeful. So, okay, back to your story then. Now you've married Roy and he's a pro-life advocate. Is he also involved in Pro-Life Mississippi?
He was a sidewalk counselor. He became more and more active after we got married. In fact, I guess 3 years into our marriage, he got fired from his job for being in the news about his pro-life advocacy. So he became 100% pro-life. He organized Operation Rescue in Mississippi and talked his wife into getting arrested a few times too.
You got arrested a few times?
Oh yeah. We did sit-ins until the early 90s. Sit-ins are a trespass, a misdemeanor. Until the FACE Act, which I think was under Clinton, I'm not sure, but they passed a federal law saying that, but if you do a sit-in at an abortion clinic, it's going to be a felony. Well, I had to quit doing it then because I'd lose my license, blah, 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 blah. But anyway, my husband didn't quit. I can't tell you how many times. And he traveled with a number of pro-life advocates who rescued. They would go to different cities and do sit-ins, and I bailed him out countless times. Anyway, he was wonderful.
So it's interesting here because I've written blogs a little bit about this. I thought maybe you knew my background, but so I was eventually hired at the University of Notre Dame as their pro-life coordinator of the Alumni Association, working with the 210 active alumni clubs all over the world. And they eliminated my position at one point. I was a little too pro-life for them. So that's all I can say about that. But interesting, I was also let go.
Yeah.
Due to my stance at a very liberal university that wanted me to be less pro-life, even though my title was pro-life coordinator of the Alumni Association. So, and I continued, my whole family continued to pray outside of abortion clinics. Now that abortion clinic that I'm talking about was shut down and it's phenomenal. We'd have masses outside. God is so, so good. Now they've tried to put another one way down the street. Anyway, long story, but I believe that when we get to heaven, all those tiny little babies, they'll just be running up to us. I
think about Roy when he passed through the veil. I'm sure he was met by a whole crowd of little guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How beautiful. And I just want everyone to know that redemption is powerful, isn't it, Beverly?
Yes, it is. Prayer is powerful. And just want to say that when I joined the Delay and Pray program, my prayer life was in good shape, but I had never learned to fast. And it was just never. Yeah.
Mhm. Right.
So that was part of the appeal of reading about you. I read about you online and I thought, I need to fast. I know I need to
Yeah.
fast. I'm 80
Yeah.
years old and I've never fasted really, just never got it down.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because even at 80, you can still, even if you're pregnant, even if you're, doesn't matter what age, even if you're 14, you can delay sugar. You can delay sugar and white flour if you need to, and alcohol. Like that's the beautiful thing about the fast is people think I need to go days without
Without,
anything but water.
yes, and that's not it at all. One of the things I've also loved is, learned a lot of stuff in medical school and while I was in practice, but nutrition and preventive medicine was not a big
Mm-mm.
item, was not a big item.
I'm pretty sure I've read somewhere that out of all the years of practice for physicians, I believe there are 4 hours of nutrition training, and it's probably not even the best nutrition training.
I agree. I agree. I learned things like leptin and ghrelin and
Hunger hormone.
exaggerated insulin response. I mean, I knew about diabetes and general things, but yeah, and my diet changed to food. I'm just doing that, just
Mhm.
eating real food, real vegetables, real protein, and not the processed food. I feel better. I mean, I noticed that after several months is that I just felt better just getting back to real food.
Yeah, getting nutrients into your system, and then also that gut brain link in your gut. Gut health is really big right now in nutrition, and it can really affect the way we feel. And what's so funny is we know that our feeling affects the way that we eat because we have the model. So the model was new for you, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I have to confess, the thought model is I guess, going to be one of the last things that I get down, if you would. Uh,
Mhm.
I'm pretty good about the journaling and
Food protocols.
getting better about writing down what I'm going to eat the next day,
Mhm.
uh, whether that happens or not. But writing it down is very, very helpful.
It's
Uh,
very helpful.
yeah, yeah. But that's part of what I like about attending the Zoom meetings. Even if I don't do my thought model, it helps to watch other people go through the thought model, and I come up with other people's wonderful thoughts, new thoughts
Right.
that help. Uh,
Yeah. Yes. And I'm hoping I was thinking about you because there's about 20 women who have stayed with me from the beginning. And I'm hoping that you've seen me evolve as well. For instance, my new model, my new model that I discovered through some really wonderful, what I would call them almost prophets, is that circumstance line
yeah,
that is the fact of your life, which really helps. It helps our feelings because it takes out the drama. These are the facts. What do I want to do with it? But there's what we can see. And I divided that C line into a C1 and C2. C1, this is what I can see. These are the facts, but this is what I cannot see. And so even your beautiful story about the little baby, he had a body, but he also had a soul. And we couldn't see that. And people don't see that. And how beautiful that you flipped right into the pro-life work. God is so good. He's so good. And you were so open to that. And I love that. And the scripture of the living word that goes into that unseen line. I think you needed that to come back to the Catholic Church because,
oh, I did. I needed 12 years in the Protestant faith to detox, if you would, from all the secular humanism, because I couldn't have been a good Catholic physician, what with birth control pills and IUDs and all that business. When I got reconciled to the Catholic Church in 93, I had to practice without doing any kind of birth control. I couldn't tie tubes anymore. I wouldn't have been ready for that, straight out of the
yeah,
abortion clinic.
yeah,
Uh,
God knows exactly,
the time,
exactly what we need. Doesn't he? He's so good to us. So was Roy Catholic? Did you guys get married in the
No, he
Catholic
was
church?
not Catholic. I mean, he was a Mississippi boy. He was a good Southern Baptist.
Oh, good Southern Baptist. Okay.
But we got married in the Methodist church. And
Mhm.
when I felt God calling me back to the Catholic Church, of course, I talked it over with him. And I said, Roy, I know God's calling me to do this. I don't need your permission, but I want to let you know that this is what I'm thinking of, and how do you feel about it? And of course, by then he'd met a bunch of Catholics
Of
through
course.
through the pro-life
Yeah.
movement.
So now did you know Father Frank Pavone?
Oh yes, Father Frank's
Love him.
been here in Mississippi lots of times. Yes, we know him well. Yeah, yeah.
Oh my goodness. And so then Roy gave you not permission, but
Well, yes,
Roy basically said,
his
go, go.
blessing. Go ahead. And his words were, but don't expect me to be Catholic. And I said, I do not. I said, if you ever do, it better not be because I'm Catholic. It better be because you're convinced that's what you need to do. Well, about 4 years later, he finally decided he needed to go through RCIA just to see what the
Yeah.
heck was going on. He
Yeah.
went through, I think, 4 times before he'd go to a certain
Mhm.
point and he'd say, I can't do that. And then he'd stop. And then he'd get beyond that and they'd sign up the next year. But he finally did join the Catholic Church, and then he was just red hot. Just
On fire for Christ.
yeah,
Oh my goodness.
yeah, yeah.
That is so beautiful. I've met Father Frank Pavone so many times. Well, when I was with Notre Dame, I was connected to all of these people all of a sudden, right? Visiting Washington, D.C. quite a bit. Did you go on the March for Life?
I went on 2, but yeah,
Yeah.
uh, I've gotten used to living in the South. Who wants to go up and
Yeah.
suffer through?
Yeah. I was a high school teacher taking, 100
Yeah,
high
yeah.
schoolers sleeping on a gym floor. But no, but I went with Notre Dame. I stayed in a hotel by then. But what a fabulous conversion story. And that is really what spiritual fasting is. It's redemptive suffering. It's letting people understand that even the discomfort of your weight loss or any type of physical infirmity can be offered up to God and be redeemed. And so let's transition now into this goal, this dream you've had of hiking or walking the El Camino with your sons, who you are praying that they would be consent to being baptized. And what is so beautiful is that you had shared that you had a knee problem and you were worried about getting through the 60 miles. And then all of a sudden on the group, everyone's praying for knees. We're all praying for healing. In the name of Jesus Christ, heal Beverly's knees. And in fact, I got an email. I get email all the time, but I got an email this morning saying, praying for Beverly. I mean, she was talking about something else. And then always praying for knees and Beverly. And our knees are very important. And so God cares about our knees. He cares about everything. He cares about every single thing. So tell us a little bit about your spiritual why and your sons and in this walk, this hike that you're going to be doing this fall.
Okay. Well, I have 3 boys, and of course I love them. And when I got back to God in the Protestant faith, I started taking the boys to church with me. And in the Wesleyan tradition, they believe in becoming baptized as a believer, not necessarily being baptized as an infant. Of
Right.
course, when they were infants, I was a complete heathen, so he did not get baptized. My middle son, when he was 12, had a conversion experience and got baptized, and he's been straight arrow ever since. The
Mhm.
oldest and the youngest are the 2 that are not baptized. What would I say? Spiritual, but not religious.
Yeah. Yeah.
They fall into that category. Well, back up. Right after my divorce in 1979, the boys were 9, 7, 5. That fall, the Methodist Church had a pilgrimage to the Holy Land, and there were 40 people, and I took my 3 sons. They were the only kids on the trip. And it was just a wonderful time of healing for us as a family, and of course, seeing the holy places, etc. So just remembering what a close-knit family feeling that was. When I learned about the Camino 50 years later or what, I thought, I'd like to do that. And wouldn't it be nice to kind of do that spiritual pilgrimage idea with the boys again.
Yes.
Yeah, so that
Yes.
was, and I've been praying for them, forever since I've been back with God for their salvation, for their soul, etc. But getting back in the Catholic Church, just thinking again of how important it is to be baptized, to get that
Supernatural grace back.
wonderful
We-
grace.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes, because
Yeah.
we lose that because of original sin. And so that baptism makes us children of God, and we're restored with some of that grace and mission. Mhm.
So,
So that's beautiful. So you wanted to recreate the Holy Land with the El Camino, and they said yes.
oh
You've been
yeah,
asking them, and they said yes.
and they were excited about it. My oldest son is a big hiker, so that really resonated with him. My youngest son is going to meet us for maybe the last day or two of the hike. He lives in London, and when the hike's over and the two older boys have to get back to work, I'm going to stay and visit with the younger son for about a week. And
There's going to be a portion of it that the four of you will be together.
yeah,
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. That isn't that a dream? And how is your knee?
medium.
Okay. Still praying. It's not there yet. We're still praying for a miracle. We want it to be perfect by the time you go. We'll keep praying and fasting for that.
Well, I'm prepared for it to be wonderful or not wonderful.
Mhm.
If it's not wonderful, I'm going to go anyway. I'll ride the taxi with our suitcases to the next
That's right.
hotel and be waiting for them when they get there.
Right. No, you're going to be on the trip. We are. So what part of the El Camino are you starting in Spain?
We're starting in Spain.
Okay.
The traditional walk is from France across the Pyrenees into Spain and
Mhm.
then east, excuse me, west to
Yeah.
the Atlantic Ocean, and that's 500 miles. But if you do the last 60 miles,
Mhm.
just a little over 100 kilometers, you get the certificate. So
Yeah.
that's where we're starting. We're starting in Sarria and going to Santiago.
Oh, that is the Cathedral of Santiago de Compostela,
Yes,
the way of St. James. And this is where the reliquary of St. James is in that cathedral. And this is where miracles happen. Miracles happen.
I'm counting on that.
Yeah. We're all counting on that. They're all counting on that. Well, it's just so beautiful. And I just love that your life story is just full of redemption. And it's all of our stories. All of our stories are just full of redemption. And prayer is so, so important. And fasting, when you put fasting together with the prayer, it moves quicker. It moves quickly because the demons hate that. Prayer and fasting will cast the demons out. It's so beautiful that we can pray and fast. I'm recording this with you on Friday, and on Fridays we pray and fast for priests, holy souls in purgatory, and all good men. And Father's Day is Sunday, but it would be wonderful to have a few more Roy McMillans, pro-life advocates out there, you know, getting arrested, sitting in, saying, this isn't going to happen. Can you imagine if we had thousands of him?
Of
We,
course, out being a felony now, there's ordinary people who have to work and
yeah, I
have to
can't do
be in
it.
jail and
Yeah.
aren't able to do it as easily as they used to.
So maybe just standing on the side and praying, maybe being sidewalk counselors. That's what happened to Dr. Kloffner was there was a sidewalk counselor, and he ended up staying late and just talking to him after when he left. And he was very cordial and loving with him. And so that's how they developed a relationship. That's how this whole thing started. Was he wasn't screaming at him. He wasn't doing anything. He just said, "Hey, do you need somebody to talk to about this?" And he opened up sometimes. And that sidewalk counselor had no idea just the peril that this particular abortionist was in, the problems that he was having with all of these baby parts. It's just crazy. We had no idea. We had no idea that we were standing on the precipice of hell at that point. But interesting that when they took away his licenses, because it was Illinois, Indiana. I don't even know how many states he was, but then one by one, then he came back and wanted to befriend that sidewalk counselor because there were some other, I believe there was other doctors coming. And that's what led him to Father Dan, who would also come and pray. So it's interesting if we could get, many, many people just standing out there, just praying and loving these people into redemption.
Emphasis on the love. One of the people who prayed me out of the abortion clinic was a woman I met right before I was getting ready to open the abortion clinic. I was new to town. I went to a childbirth education tea. She was there. And I like to say within 5 minutes of talking to each other, I realized she was a Christian. She realized I was a heathen, but we decided to be friends anyway. And when I told her I was getting ready to open up the abortion clinic, I said she should be a poker player. Nothing crossed her face that told me she was horrified, but she was. She went home and called up her best friend, prayer warrior, and they made a covenant over the phone to pray for me. And within 6 months, I had my encounter with Christ in my car.
Mm.
But she was my friend, Yeah.
This is where we need to go. This is what we need to do. Band together in community and pray for everything that's going on in our world and befriend all of the people who are hurting because they don't know.
No.
A lot of them, they have the scales on their eyes. They just don't know. Well, we've had some funny coaching sessions. You and French fries. You,
My runaway.
your runaway. We call them some foods. We delay sugar, flour, and alcohol or processed food to very small amounts on Sundays, but we're always redefining our feasting, right? Because people think that feasting is kind of like a binging. They don't mean to, but they're like, oh, I can feast, so I'll eat it all, right? And so, no, just a little bit. And we all have runaway foods that we can never return to because we have that neural pathway that just says, I just can't stop. I just can't stop on this particular food because we love it. And yours was French fries. So I wanted to ask you, what do you feel about French fries right now? Are you able to have them sparingly, or did you just offer them up?
Well, at first I offered them up. I think I've had one experience with French fries, actually with somebody else's French fries. They couldn't finish eating theirs. Would you like some? Well, yes, I would. And but I just don't think about them. I just don't think about
Awesome.
them.
They're done. It's all
Well,
done. It was an attachment, and you prayed that away. Oh my goodness. So it's funny too, you've lost weight, right? Even at your age.
yeah, that has given me hope for the Camino because that's less stress on my knee.
Mhm.
Yeah.
How much weight have you lost?
I've lost 20 some pounds, 20. Yeah.
Mhm.
Uh, I was, I think, at a high of like 165 when I started, and I'm 143 this morning.
Yeah, that's good. So it's 20, 25 pounds. And then you told me, I can't remember, do you do the elliptical every day or do you do the treadmill?
I was doing the treadmill. I've
Okay.
not been back to it since I've been working with
Your
uh,
knee.
my knee. I've just got some specific knee exercises that I'm
Okay.
going to be doing for a while till I get my muscles stronger.
Awesome. But you're moving. You're
Oh, yeah.
moving. And that's the key. So it's good food. It's intermittent fasting also is good for everyone. It's great to take a break from that food.
That was something that I learned and appreciated was that we have to get rid of the sugar stores, the glycogen that we've stored up in our body before our body will work on the fat. Uh, our bodies will always take the path of least resistance, and it's uh, takes so much less energy to burn sugar and glycogen than it
Yeah.
takes to burn fat.
Yeah, it takes time to burn that glycogen out of the muscles in the liver for that to go. And then you get a little hungry at first, and you're like,
Uh,
oh, and then in our program, it's like the realization of I'm dining in with Jesus right now. I'm literally losing weight right now. When I get really hungry, I'm like, oh, I'm losing weight right now because my body is like, oh no, here we go. We got to go to those darn fat stores. That's where we got to go for the energy.
And the devil's going to say, you're going to die. You're going to die
Yeah.
if you don't eat some glucose.
You know what? And that's really funny because we talk about that. Like when I first started this, that was the one thing I got up the next morning and not having alcohol on a Friday night or even doing bread and water when I started that after years of getting into fasting. And I'd wake up the next morning, I'd be like, wow, I didn't die. Like we would die. Like we would literally die. But my thought was, wow, I didn't die. Yeah, the devil and the world and the flesh sow lies. They sow lies into our brains about abortion, about it all. And it's not true. It's lies. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, this has been wonderful. So, what do you think you value most about the community and why do you stay? Because you've been with me for like 18 months, Beverly.
Yeah. Well, I'm a slow learner. I mean, I know how long it took me to detox, if you would, from the contraceptive mentality,
Yeah.
the abortion mentality before I was able to practice as a really Catholic OBGYN. It took
Hmm.
a while. I'm a member of Regnum Christi, and I remember how many years it took me before I got the prayer life into my neural pathways, so that I mean, when I joined, I was going to daily mass. I was praying my rosary every day. I had morning and night prayers. I went to confession twice a month. I went to, I was adoration. I just couldn't fast. And
Mhm.
I guess part of it was, well, a lot of it was, vanity and pride. I was mad at myself that I couldn't fast, and I was not happy with how I looked. All of that. So anyway, baby steps. You don't form new habits, or I don't form new habits quickly. I'm not a type A personality like some folks can just take it and run. I chew on little bits at a time. It's going to take me a while, so I want to stay in here, and it helps me to, even though I don't get coached very often, hearing other people get coached many times, I'm struggling with some of the same thought models, and
Mhm.
I'll pick up a new mantra, a
Yeah.
new thought that, oh, that's what I can think when I have this temptation. I love the vulnerability and the honesty of the women in the group. It's just
It's beautiful.
beautiful. Yeah.
It really is. It's good to be in community because spiritual fasting is for the long haul. It is a lifestyle. There's no wagon, so it's not going to be quick. If we're casting out demons with prayer and fasting, it's not going to be quick.
Yeah. And the other thing is having a set time when we're going to do a Zoom meeting.
Mhm.
I'll show up for that. If it was up to me to say, well, do I have time to do something today? Or I wouldn't. I mean,
Yeah.
I like the routine. I thrive on routines. So yeah.
Well, we love having you in the group, and this has been a wonderful, wonderful conversation. I just love everything that you are. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I'm so honored to know you and to coach you every week and keep you in my prayers. And we continue to pray as a community for your health, especially your knees, so that you can meet your goal of walking the Camino with your son. Yes, absolutely. We'll keep praying and that spiritual goal of baptism. And it is interesting. I think of you a lot because baptism is so important. And I'm always asking my friends, are your grandchildren baptized? Are you baptized? Or are people getting baptized? Because no wonder we're in such a problem if only 20 to 30% of people are getting baptized. Wow. That's that's significant. So we need to pray for that.
Yeah, I read something the other day about baptism is like being given your ticket to get on the train to heaven. Now, you may have to change the dates and change your itinerary or
That's
as you
right.
go along, and it doesn't guarantee you're going to be willing to step up on the train and hand in your ticket when the time comes. But what if you don't have the ticket? You know?
Yeah. What if, yeah, we need the ticket to get on the train.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a mystery, but so I'm very vocal about that. I'm very vocal. I'm asking people all the time, are your grandchildren baptized? And they say, no, no, but they're working on it. Get them in there. Get them in there. Get them in there. Get those babies in there, get those toddlers in there, get those 7-year-olds in there, whatever it is, just get them, get those.
Get them a ticket.
Get them a ticket. I love it. I will always remember that. Oh, thank you, Beverly. You're amazing. I know the baptisms will happen. We'll also pray to St. James. God is so good. And thank you for blessing our group with your presence. So I really appreciate it. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Beth. Thank you. Thank you for very many things, teaching me to fast. Thank you.
You're so welcome. So if anyone out there is interested in getting the same results as Beverly, both spiritually and physically, then go over to my website and join the course now so you can join in on the most fruitful 15 weeks of your life and more. I hope to see you there. And if you enjoyed the podcast, please subscribe and even leave a 5-star review if you wouldn't mind, so others will hear the great message of spiritual fasting, getting healthy, losing weight, getting back to the sacraments this year. It's never too soon and it's never too late, my friends. Have a great week, and I will talk to you next week. May God bless you and keep you always. If you are interested in learning more about spiritual fasting and permanent weight loss, then come join my course, Delay and Pray, a guided course for weight loss through spiritual fasting. You won't go through it alone either. I will be there to coach you every step of the way. This is a group coaching program where you are part of an amazing community of like-minded Catholics who have the same goal as you, to bring about miracles while losing that weight permanently through spiritual fasting. Your purchase includes an online course detailing what spiritual fasting is, how to do it, and all the tools you need to get you the results you're longing for. Head over to my website right now at thecatholicfastingcoach.com and get the details on how to join. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, and LinkedIn to always get the latest daily information to help you keep fasting, my friends. Can't wait to see you in there. May God bless you and keep you always.